Hello and welcome to a Celtic State of Mind and Celtic Down Under. One of those, what do they call? What do the kids call them these days? Collabs, I think they call them.
Collaboration, there you go.
Yeah. So we're having one of those. I think this is one of my first ones for the match coverage. But my name's Laura Bradburn. I'm from Axom. I've got Jared and Liam from Celtic Down Under, who are also now regular featured faces on the Celtic State of Mind. Jared, how you doing?
Yeah, pretty good, Laura.
How you doing, Liam?
Good. I've just bought tickets for my first ever Japan international team match tomorrow. Going to see the Japan ladies take on New Zealand. Should be a good one.
Oh, I was going to say if it was the men's team, it's basically a Celtic match at this point, but there you go. That'll be good. That'll be good. It really is a truly multinational show you've got from today, from every corner of the earth. We've got Japan and Australia represented, as well as me in lovely Glasgow. Apologies if my throat is not up to scratch today. Well, it is a bit scratchy, but I was at a wedding last night, so yeah, make of that what you will. Anyway, we will crack on with today's coverage. We are, of course, facing St Johnstone away from home in league action. Guys, we'll talk about the lineup in a minute, but Liam, I'll come to you first. I guess the first question I would ask is, what are you hoping to see today, considering, we've not been firing on all guns recently. There's been a bit of discussion about whether the team's a bit off form, a bit tired. What are you hoping to see today?
Well, I read an editorial the other day, which actually, for a change, I find myself agreeing with, that said that Celtic basically have not played to their best since that first half against Real Madrid.
Right.
And I think that's pretty much spot on. So what I'm hoping to see today is a reaction. The team need to come out and put on a show and just remind everybody why we are top of the league. So hopefully a few goals, and be good to have a more stable defence than we've had recently, hopefully as well.
Absolutely. Jared, I think that's the important thing to remember is what Liam says. We are still top of the league. We've still managed to get wins under our belts with the occasional wayward result, but things aren't as bad as they might seem, are they?
No, not at all. Like, I think I said yesterday on the board, and we've just got to, get back to doing what we do. And like, we've been missing a lot of open chances lately. So since realistically the Dundee United game, we've been missing a lot of those chances where the ball's coming in and we're scuffing shots, or the header's off by an inch here, an inch there, sort of thing, and hitting the post and stuff. So that'll come. I just want to see a performance by us, get back to doing, that one-touch passing, the pressing, getting all the basics right. The goals will come. I've got more than enough faith in the team. So yeah, more about a performance than anything else.
Yeah. The 11 that will be given is that performance. Hopefully, I'll just try and pull them up here. If I can do that. Let me see. This is the first time I've ever done this, guys. So let me just see if I can do this. Chrome tab. There we go. No, I'll just do window. So let me see if I can share the screen here. I can't do it. I'm afraid. So I will just have to. I'll just have to read it out for you guys. The goalkeeper is Hart, followed by Ralston, Carter Vickers, Welsh, and Bernaby at the back. In midfield is O'Reilly, Hatate, Abada, and Haksabanovic, Jota, and Yakimakis up front. Liam, we'll go to the bench in a second, but the starting lineup is really quite a few changes there. Is that something you were expecting to see, or are you quite surprised by that today?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm Maeda's biggest fan, but on current form, Abada is the better option. So him getting in ahead of Maeda today does not particularly surprise me. Kyogo, also has not, although he's still been scoring goals, he's not been firing on all cylinders. So it's good to see Giacomakis get a chance. Haksabanovic, we've only seen little bits of him, but we've seen, particularly that first half against Donetsk, he looked really good. So hopefully a bit more of that today.
Yeah. I think I totally agree with that. I think Abada's going to be a good option. Obviously, he wasn't out because of injury during the week. He was out because of observing a religious holiday, so he should be pretty fresh and pretty available. Haksabanovic starting will be another one, but But Jared, I wanted to touch on, the fact that Ange has been keeping it pretty much under wraps as he likes to do, but Carter Vickers is back in the lineup for the defence. How do you think his influence is going to be, given the fact that we have been struggling without him? I think
it's a massive win for us. We were talking yesterday on the bulletin, me and Kevin, about if we had Carter Vickers coming in, who would we keep in there with him, Jens or Welsh? And I was saying we'd keep Welsh in. Looks like Jens has been crook after the game, so that's what's ruled him out. So, I think it's a massive win for us with Carter Vickers. And as you can obviously see that, you're looking at the team lineup, Ange thinks that too because he's put the captain's armband on him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's vital, and I think it says a lot about Carter Vickers' influence on the team as a whole. That the first option when McGregor's out injured as he is Carter Vickers. So to be in the captain's armband. The bench is Bain, Siegrist, Kyogo, Moy, McCarthy, Abildgaard, Maeda, Forrest, and Juranovic. No word, Liam, that there's anything particularly wrong with Kyogo that would have put him down to the bench. Is Ange just looking to freshen things up? Is there any comment on Kyogo's recent performances? Do you think that he's on the bench today?
No, I think it's just trying something out a bit different. We've played with Kyogo and Maeda kind of forming this sort of link up along with Jota thus far. Mm-hmm. And today we're going to see what Haksabanovic and Giakoumakis can do. The thing is, I hope it doesn't happen, but if we do end up behind at any point, you've still got the two of them on the bench if we're needing goals.
Yeah.
So, no, I think it's just a bit of I wouldn't say experimentation, but just giving players that haven't had the chance yet a chance to go out and show us over the course of a full game what they can do. Yeah,
I think that's fair enough, and I think, Jared, I think possibly you knowing Ange on a longer term basis than a lot of us did, is this normal for him? Sort of, do you think tinkering with the lineup and just freshening things up, even if there's no particular reason to do it, or do you think he's always got a thought in his head about exactly why he's chosen to do that, especially with the front line today?
And just playing chess while we're all playing checkers. That's the easiest way to look at it. He's thinking 2-3 games ahead. So let's have a look at it. Kyogo has struggled for form recently. Like, he hasn't been the greatest. He's played a fair chunk during the week. We've got a game against Leipzig on Tuesday, and we're playing against a team. St. Johnstone would have a big centre backs who like to put the studs in. Who's the better option to put in as a centre forward in that situation? Giakoumakis every single day. So I can understand that completely from that perspective. I don't think there's any much more to it other than like why try and read too much into it. Clearly, I think it's a better matchup for us, and we've still got Kyogo on the bench to bring on later against tiring defenders. Once they've started wearing out for the last half hour or so, makes sense.
Yeah, it's certainly. I'm excited to see that particular front three, because I don't think, except in short spells, we'll have seen the front three together in that formation. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, especially with Abada also in the field. It might indicate a slight change of shape. Liam, do you think there's going to be a change of shape, given that we've got Haksabanovic, Jota, Giakoumakis and Abada all in the field? Or do you think one of those is going to take a midfield role that maybe I'm not seeing looking at the lineup?
I think it gives us a bit more of a dynamic ability to kind of switch. People have been talking this season about how, for example, Maeda and Jota would switch wings.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've now got the option of Haksabanovic dropping back, Abada stepping forward, vice versa. I think it just makes the whole team a bit more dynamic. And with Callum possibly being missing for a while,
yeah,
we need to find something a bit different in the midfield, and this is a good chance to experiment with that today.
Yeah, that brings me on to my next point, that Jared, I was going to come to you on. First of all, obviously, we don't know the full extent of Callum's injury. There's pictures on the internet of him in a brace, heading for advice from a specialist elsewhere, and the noises Ange have been making while not confirming anything are pretty worrying in terms of the seriousness and the potential length of time of recovery for Callum's injury. I think it's a knee problem that looks like is going to take some amount of work to get fixed. I guess looking at it today, you would assume from the lineup that we've got that Hatate is taking on the McGregor role. What do you make of that? And also, what do you make of the fact that even with McGregor being out, McCarthy is still not able to get himself into the first 11? Is this an opportunity for him, as much as it pains me to say it, to maybe cement a place in the team for himself?
I actually don't mind the changes that Ange just made. Like, yes, McGregor's going to be a huge out for us, but we talk about it all the time, particularly on our pod, Liam, where it's next man up. And that's the way our squad is. And Liam has mentioned previously when we were first linked with Hatate that he has played as a defensive midfielder as a 6 before. He's played there. He's played left back. He's played as an 8. So he's got a lot of versatility there. So I'm looking forward to seeing this position. Let's see what he can do for us there. And I actually don't think we're having a change in the formation too much, to be honest with you. We're talking last night, me and Kev, on the bulletin, and the thing for me is I was saying I wanted directness on the wing. So I was saying have Abada on one side and Maeda or Haksabanovic on the other. Now, Haksabanovic can play as a 10. Jota can play as a 10 as well. So I actually think we're going to see Jota in the 10 role, and let's see what he's capable of. Like, if he wants to make that next big move in his development, that's where he needs to be. So, yeah, that's that side of it. And then what you're saying about McCarthy, I think it's a bit hard for him. If you think he's going to be able to break into the team and establish a role, he hasn't even been making the match day squad recently. So it's a bit of a steps for him. First, he's got to get in the match day squad on the bench, come on for half hour here, build up his fitness over a few games, and then look to come in long term if need be.
Yeah, it's a strange one, Liam, because I think with the McCarthy thing, there were some of us who were a bit wary of the piece of business even when he first came in. You know, the fact that he was already 30 years old, he was being offered a 4-year contract, I'm sure not on completely insignificant wages. And here we are, you know, pretty much 2 years into that contract. And he's never been able to cement a place in the team, even in a case where the player keeping him out of the team or one of the players keeping out of the team looks as if he's got a significant injury and he still can't get into the first 11. I get what Jared's saying there, but I think the fact that he's so off of match sharpness and sometimes, as Jared says, hasn't made the match day squad is a concern in and of itself. Do you see him using this opportunity to really make an impact in the next few weeks or months, depending on how long Callum's out?
In all honesty, no. Because I think even just on today's bench, Abelgard and Moy are both getting on before he does.
Yeah.
And once he's fully fit, there's a question of would Ideguchi be ahead of him as well? I don't know, because I'm not sure if Ideguchi is still injured or if he's just not made the squad, because he and McCarthy both seem to be in a similar kind of limbo at the moment. But I think Ange probably fancies Ideguchi a bit more than he does McCarthy.
Well, Gucci's just returned to training this week, Liam. There's
right. There you go. Right. I've not been following the news this week, so that makes sense.
I saw him on the training photos and the videos and on the YouTube channel. That's how I know.
All right, good. Well, then, it'll be interesting to see once he is fully fit, who does become that, like the designated backup. Is it Moy? Is it Abelgard? Or is it Gucci? Because I definitely don't think it'll be McCarthy.
I think the good thing about it as well is that although we're kind of talking about them as if they're interchangeable, they do all offer something slightly different to each other. Although they're all defensive midfielders, they're not entirely the same in the way that they operate. You know, Abelgard's got the height that he's got, and hopefully the technical ability with his touches on the ball, whereas Moy and perhaps Ideguchi are a little bit more industrial in what they do and a bit more dynamic in the way that they play. So it's going to be interesting to see if we use a variety of them over a number of weeks, depending on Callum's injury, how they'll change the way that we play. But it'll be interesting to see. Jared, I'll come to you on this one first. Another quite significant change that I didn't expect to see, but I'm not entirely discouraged by is Juranovic being dropped to the bench and Ralston coming in. Again, do you see that as any reflection on Juranovic's performances, or is this just Ange, freshening things up and trying something different for the match?
I think there's a combination of both. Plus, Juranovic's form lately hasn't been that great, particularly in Europe. But at the league, he's been serviceable. Then the amount of minutes he's been playing lately, and with Ralston being the quality player he is, it makes sense for him to come in. But the other thing I think is a factor is if you're going to play Bernabé, I don't think you can play Bernabé and Juranovic together because they're both more attack-minded. So Ralston at least will hold back in the same way when we had Tierney on the left and we had Lustig on the right. Lustig could stay back and let Tierney bomb on. I think if we had both of them going forward, then it kind of leaves us a little exposed at the back.
I think that's a fair point. Liam, the Juranovic form, I think, is more reflective of the team as a whole. Not that he's been playing badly, just that we've had a slight dip in form. And I think, contrary to what people might have said 2 or 3 years ago, Ralston coming in isn't in any way a concern. In fact, I think a lot of people will be encouraged to see him coming in because, if there's one thing you can say about Tony Ralston, it's that he always gives 100%.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, particularly with the fullbacks, if you're talking about swapping Taylor for Bernabé and swapping Ralston for Juranovic, definitely, at least at Scottish league level anyway, I don't think there's any discernible drop in our capabilities when you do that.
Yeah.
Ralston he is probably the most improved player I've seen at Celtic in a very long time, based on where he was about 18 months ago to where he is now. Bernabé looked very good pre-season, hasn't done much since then, but he's... I mean, you don't go to South America for a guy if you think he's a dud. That's
No.
I think. I'm pretty sure he's got something to show us as well, and he'll have a point to prove because he came in as a pretty highly lauded signing, but has not really done very much. So he's going to want to go out there and show what he can do. So yeah, I think also with the midfielders we just discussed, Bernabé being a bit more attacking allows him to step up and support the midfield as and when required as well.
Mm-hmm. He should. I think he should provide a decent amount of attacking prowess on the left hand side as well. Not any more or less than Taylor does, but I think he'll definitely offer that. And it's good for players like him and Haksabanovic, who, let's be honest, we've not seen a huge amount of, to see them coming in from the start today and get a real, assessment of what exactly their capabilities are. It'll be worth enough alone to watch this match, even if if you weren't going in the first place. But it's going to be interesting. I'll be keeping a close eye on them specifically, I think, for the 90 minutes. Before we go on and talk a little bit more about the match upcoming, Liam, I wanted to ask you about that shirt you're wearing. Now, I quite pride myself on, here I'm about to set myself up here, but I managed to correctly guess you were performing a bit of retail therapy during the week and you bought yourself a South Africa shirt, and I correctly guessed that it was from the 1998 World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that one is USA 94.
Well done. Yes.
Come on.
The interesting thing about that, just to go off on a tangent for a wee second, at that World Cup, the USA had 2 kits. One was the stars, and the other one was the red and white stripes.
Excellent.
So it was a very novel and very interesting approach to kit design.
I don't think America make enough of their. I think they've got a pretty cool flag for making kits, if you ignore the colour scheme, obviously. But I don't think they make enough of the stars and stripes. But that's a particularly smart one, I have to say. Was that another new purchase, or have you had that one a while?
Oh no, I've had this a wee while. It was in homage to the great Carter Vickers making his return today. I thought I'll stick an America shirt on.
Excellent. I wonder if I don't know. Do either of you know? Will he be making an appearance at the World Cup for the USA? Does he get called up by them? I don't even know if that's the case.
He was called up
contention.
and then he missed the last lot. Like he was called up and then he got injured and then got replaced.
Honest to God, I would love to see who their central defence is if they've got somebody better than Carter Vickers, really.
I mean, back at after we smashed Rangers at the beginning of September, there was like the controversy of the dinner photo where it was Sands of Rangers and Carter Vickers sitting down with the USA manager. So that tells me that both of those players are definitely in his thoughts anyway. I mean, he wouldn't be meeting with them if he wasn't considering them. But yeah, Carter Vickers should at least make the squad for the USA. There's nobody. When I saw them play Japan a couple of weeks ago, there's nobody in that team that's any better than him at the moment, put it that way.
Yeah, I'll be interested. I'll be definitely keeping a close eye on all the Celtic players that make it to the World Cup, no matter who it is. Unfortunately, it won't be any Scottish players, but there we go. Back to today's game, though. Jared, I'll come to you on this one. We're sort of just at the start of a pretty mammoth run between now and the shutdown for the World Cup in the middle of November. Do you expect to see that this is quite a changed up team that we've got today, with quite a few faces that we weren't expecting to see, some enforced, some not? Do you expect this to be the nature of things over the next few weeks, given the amount of games that we've got coming up?
Makes sense to. Otherwise, you're going to end up with another injury situation like we had going into Christmas last year.
Yeah.
Where we just had that, we're playing the same guys over and over and over. And then you look at Davey Turnbull's injury, that he was the first man picked pretty much every week and he was playing amazing. And then gets hurt and he's out for ages. We kind of have to. It's the whole reason we keep saying it's a squad game. It's the reason why we've signed players. So we've got pretty much two at every position ready to go. So, yeah, I think we'll probably see a rotation of maybe 3. Like today, there was 6 players changed. That's because of injuries and people coming back and all that sort of stuff. But I think we'll probably see 3 or 4 players rotated most games, particularly coming back from Europe into the league.
Yeah, I think that's entirely right. Speaking of which, you mentioned 2 players in every position. Sometimes we've got more than 2 players in every position. Liam Paddy Lavery says, "Why have we got 2 goalkeepers on the bench?" Now, it's not completely unusual to see 2 goalkeepers on the bench, but I have to say I was concerned when I saw it, because I did wonder. I mean, I don't see the necessity for it, for one thing, but then I did wonder, is that us needing to fill the bench because of a problem with squad size? Do you look at that and see anything to be concerned about, or is it just, I don't know, is it just a way of keeping player morale up or something like that if you're a goalkeeper?
Well, thankfully, due to my borderline ADHD, I have been looking at my phone periodically as we've been talking.
How rude.
But I found out that apparently Jens was sent home this morning just before the bus was due to depart Glasgow.
Right.
With an illness. So my guess is Bain was drafted in at the last minute, because he would have travelled with the team anyway, even if he wasn't in the squad.
Yeah.
And so he's just been swapped out for Jens, which is why we also have no centre-backs on the bench.
Yeah.
No, Liam, I'm going to jump in there. I'm going to give a stupid answer here. It's because Scott Bain's been training at centre-back. There you go.
Well, we did sell Near Beaton, so we do need somebody at centre back. So maybe maybe Scott Bain will make it.
I'm saying it. That's fishing for the comments.
Oh God, that reminds me of the time Stuart Pearce was manager of Man City and pulled the most Championship manager move of all time. He was about to get the sack and he was losing, and he put David James on up front when he had strikers on the bench. Honest to God, the worst thing I think I've ever seen. So let's hope he's not. I'm sure Ange isn't planning to pull any of that today, but let's hope not, because that would be absolutely atrocious. Jared, I'll come to you first on this one. The opposition, St Johnstone. I'm not particularly, not to sound too arrogant about it, but they're not a team I particularly fear in comparison to others in the league. Do you see any points of concern from them today that you think we might struggle with?
They've got a couple of guys there who, if you give them half a chance, can convert in Clark and May. That's about it. Like, I'm not really worried. There's not many names that jump out off the screen or off the page at me. Like McGowan, Hellberg, those guys we should be okay with. Considine in the back. He's a shin kicker, so not too worried about him. I think it's more the one thing with them is playing at their pitch, which is a bit narrower than ours, and how compact Callum Davison coaches them and keeps their structure. They will be hard to break down, but I think once we get one, it'll open things up.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, Liam, because St Johnstone have been over the past decade on a bit of a roller coaster ride. They had that season where they won the 2 domestic cups, and for a club of their size, they have been very, very successful at various points. But I think from our point of view, I don't see them as a Ross County or a Livingston or a couple of other teams that although of a pretty average standard, there are teams that provide a kind of bogey team for Celtic. I don't see St Johnstone in that bracket, and so maybe my confidence is misplaced, but I don't see us experiencing too many problems from them today.
No, I mean, like you say, traditionally they're not a team that we usually struggle against. Obviously, you need to give them the proper respect, and I just think that as a football fan generally, what St Johnstone have achieved, considering how small they are and how small the fan base is, really is quite incredible. So credit to them for that. But I think we'll win comfortably today.
Yeah, I'm hoping we do, because obviously, well, for obvious reasons, but also the fact that I would really like us to get back on top and just get flying the way we were again. Before we go for kickoff, I've got a little video that Paul John has asked me to play that he had during an interview with actor Tony Curran, where he was talking about the famed director. I don't know if any of you've heard of him, but a certain Martin Scorsese. So I'll just play it just now, just before we head off the air for the game.
So yeah, if there was a story, I think it would be very moving and very poignant, and it would be a great celebration of what Celtic is about. And I think it would be more about maybe they're calling me now, and maybe they're going to offer me a role or something. Is that
Scorsese?
Is that tell him I'm in.
Yeah, so that's just a wee example of some of the video content that we produce here at A Celtic State of Mind. And don't forget, you can vote for us in the Best Video Creator category at the Football Content Awards for that we're going down to in Manchester in the next couple of months. I guess the only thing left to do, and Liam, I'll come to you on this first, is we'll talk about potential predictions. Do you see us scoring freely today? What's your prediction for a score today?
4-0.
4-0.
Yes, I think we'll be 2-0 up at half time. I think we'll, bring on a couple of players in the second half. Maybe Kyogo, maybe Maeda, and get a couple more in the second half. A nice rounded 4-0. Yeah. Excellent.
A nice wee boost to confidence to go into the next run of games. Jared, are you in agreement with that, or do you see us perhaps conceding a goal or struggling to score up top?
Yeah, I said 3-1 on yesterday's bulletin. I'm going to stick with it. The one will be for a bit later on. Stevie May will just get in front of someone and stop and get knocked over for a cheap penalty, because that's what always happens. But yeah, Giacomakis with 2, Haksabanovic with 1 for us, and then a dodgy penalty for them later on. But yeah,
that is so specific that I'm tempted to put a bet on just in case it comes in.
Don't worry, I looked.
I don't know if you can bet on the penalty,
Oh, yeah. Interesting, by the way, not that I'm making any comment or anything like that, but interesting to see Rangers get another player sent off in Europe, and, doesn't seem to happen very much.
Well,
penalty conceded, I should say, not sent off, but penalty conceded.
The thing is, discussing that, in the context of Scottish football, it's a bit like Rangers in Europe. Utterly pointless.
Oh, ouch. With that said, with that said, we'll leave you be. Everybody enjoy the first half. We'll be back at half time to pick over whatever it is that we do see, and we'll see you then. Thank you, Liam and Jared, and see you at half time.
See you then.